You're watching My CDL Buddy. Today we're going to show you how to do a pre-trip on a Class B CDL vehicle. Today's pre-trip is the new modernized version of the pre-trip. With the modernized version, the pre-trip starts inside of the truck. Let's get in and get started. The first thing we do on the pre-trip is going to be your in-vehicle inspection, your in-cab, and all your braking tests. The first thing I do during my in-cab is I put my vehicle into electrical mode. I turn my key to the right slightly, make sure my ABS light comes on and goes off, and also if I have DEF on my truck, I make sure my DEF light comes on and goes off to indicate to me that both systems are working properly. Now we're going to start the truck. Push my clutch in, make sure my vehicle is in neutral, which it is. I'll start my vehicle. Once I start my vehicle, I'm going to start off with my braking test first. My first braking test I'm going to do is going to be my lab test. My lab test has 4 steps. The first step is for me to build the air all the way to 125 psi and to show the examiner that my air governor cuts in and cuts out at the proper times. So if my air tanks are full, I will fan my brakes to get them under 90 to show the examiner that my air does build properly on this truck. Now I'm at 80 psi of air. I will push down my accelerator. My governor has cut in, started building the air. And at 125 psi, my governor will cut out to show me that my air tanks are full of air. And you will hear a loud hissing sound at 125 psi to indicate that the governor did cut out. We heard that hissing sound. Now that my air tanks are full, step 1 is successful. I will move on to step number 2. I will put my vehicle into first gear, push in my clutch, push it into first. While my clutch is down, I'll turn off my truck. I'll let go of my clutch. I will release my brake, place my vehicle into electrical mode once again. I'll go to step number 2, my applied brake tests. I will put my foot on the service brake, hold it down for 1 minute. During this minute, I should not lose more than 3 psi of air in both of my air tanks. I will count to a minute. My minute is up. During the real test, you will actually count to a minute or have the examiner time you. I did not lose more than 3 psi of air in either air tank. Step number 2 was successful. Step number 3, I will fan my service brake up and down till 60 psi. My alarm and buzzer should sound to indicate that I have low air in my system. I'll do that now. I'll push my service brake up and down. Once I get to 60 psi, my alarm and buzzer should have come on, which it did. Step number 3 is successful. Step number 4, I will keep pushing up and down on my service brake till 20 to 45 psi, and my emergency spring brake button should pop up to indicate that my emergency spring brakes do work. I'll do that now. I'll keep pumping till my button does pop. My button did pop. Step number 4 is successful. So I am done now with my lab test. I will move on to start my truck, build my air back up to 125 psi to do my parking brake test, my tug test, and my service brake tests. Let's start the truck. I'll push in my clutch, put my vehicle back into neutral, and I'll start the vehicle with my clutch pushed in. Once that happens, I'll let go of my clutch, make sure my button is fully out, which it is, and I will push on my accelerator to build the air quicker. Now that both of my air tanks are full of air, I'm going to go to my parking brake test, my tug test. I'll put my vehicle into a low gear. I'll push in my clutch, put it into first gear, make sure my brake button is out, my parking brake is on. Now I'm going to let go of my clutch slightly till I feel a tug to make sure my vehicle does not roll and my parking brake does work. I did feel a tug. I'll push in my clutch again. My parking brake works. Now I'm going to do a service brake test. My clutch is pushed in. My vehicle is in gear. I'll put my foot on the service brake. I will push in my button to release my parking brake on my truck. I'll roll 5 miles per hour. Once I do that, I'll hit my service brake to make sure my vehicle does stop properly. Okay, we were at 5 miles per hour. I hit my service brake. My vehicle did stop properly. Also, it did not sway from left to right or right to left to indicate to me a suspension problem. That was successful. Now I'll pull out my parking brake, pull out the yellow knob. I'll put my vehicle back into neutral. I'll let go of my clutch. Now that I'm done with my braking tests, I'm going to move on to do the rest of the in-cab items. First thing I want to do, I want to check all my lighting indicators on my dash. Let's start off with the left turn signal. It is working properly. Right turn signal, it is working properly. High beam indicator, it is working properly. My 4-way emergency flashers, they are working properly. Now we're going to make sure we turn off all the lights on the dash. Once we're done with that, we're going to talk about all our emergency equipment. The first thing I want to talk about is my fire extinguisher, which is in the back. It's not broken, not cracked, unsecured, not rolling around, secured to the floor. Proper type, fully charged. Also, we have 3 reflective triangles under my seat. They're not broken, not cracked. They're secured to the floor, proper type, they work properly. Then we have emergency spare fuses for each fuse type in my glove box. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to check my mirrors. They're not broken, not cracked, unsecured, driver and passenger side, adjusted properly. My windshield, it's not broken, not cracked, unsecured, clean and clear, no illegal stickers blocking my view. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to check my windshield wipers and washers. Make sure they are working, which they are. And I'll push in my button to release some washer fluid on my windshield, and it is working properly. Once we're done with that, we're going to check our defrost and floor heat. I'll put my heat on the heat position. I'll put the knob on the defrost and floor position, and I'll turn on my fan. Defrost works, and also I can feel my floor heat. It's working. We can turn that off once we're done with that if we'd like. Last thing we're going to check is our city horn and our air horn on the truck. City horn works properly. Air horn works properly. Now I have completed my in-vehicle inspection and all my braking tests. If I have passed this section, my examiner will ask me to move on to finish the rest of the pre-trip. Now that you were successful in completing your in-vehicle inspection, your in-cab, and all the braking tests, the examiner will have you move on to finish the rest of the pre-trip. The rest of the pre-trip will be the external light operation check and the pre-trip on the outside of the vehicle. Since I'm in the truck, I will ask the examiner if we can do the external light operation check to make sure that all the lights work on the vehicle. I'll have the examiner step out the vehicle to head to the front of the truck first to check those lights. When I do that, I will open my windows so the examiner could hear me. I will also turn off my truck so the examiner could hear me, and I will put on electrical mode on my vehicle so my lights do work properly. First lights I want to check is the lights on the front of the truck. I will turn on my headlights. Once I do that, my clearance lights and my headlights should come on, which they did. Then I will check my high beams to make sure that they are working. They do work. Once I'm done with that, I'll make sure my left signal is working, my right signal is working, and my 4-way emergency flashers, which they are working. Once I'm done with that, I'll turn off all the lights, ask the examiner to go to the side of the vehicle, the driver's side. Once the examiner is there, I will turn on my headlights again to make sure all my marker and clearance lights are working on the side of the vehicle, which they are. My left turn signal, make sure that it is working on the side and the back of my vehicle. And also my 4-way emergency flashers are working on the side and back, back of the vehicle. Once I'm done with that, I'll turn off the lights. I'll have the examiner go to the back of the truck. When the examiner is back there, I'll turn on my headlights. Once I do that, my clearance lights on the back and my tail lights should come on. Once I'm done with that, I will push in my service brake to make sure my brake lights work in the back. Now we're going to check our left turn signal in the back. It is working. My right turn signal in the back, it is working. And my 4-way emergency flashers, they are working. Once I'm done with that, I'll turn off my headlights again and finally have the examiner come on the passenger side of the vehicle. Once the examiner is there, I'll turn on my headlights to make sure my marker and clearance lights are working there. They are. My right turn signal is working there, and it is. And my emergency flasher signals are working on the passenger side of the vehicle. Once that is done, I'll turn off my headlights, put my key on off position, make sure it is off. I'll step out, meet the examiner in front of the truck to conduct the pre-trip on the outside of the truck. On the outside portion of the pre-trip on the Class B vehicle, the first thing that I'm going to do is start off with the front of the vehicle. Clearance lights, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper color, clean and clear. They are working properly. My headlights and high beams, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, clean and clear, working properly. My turn signals and emergency flashers, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, proper color amber, and they're working properly. Now I'm going to go open the hood to do the engine compartment area. We will be starting off with the unique side of the engine compartment, which is the passenger side. The first thing we're going to inspect on the unique side of the engine compartment are all the hoses, all the lines, and all the components to make sure nothing is broken or cracked. Everything is on secure. There is no leaking of air or fluids. Also, we want to check under the vehicle, make sure there are no puddles and the floor is dry, which it is. Now we're going to go to the driver's side of the engine compartment to inspect all the regular items. On the regular side of the engine compartment, which is on the driver's side, the first thing I do, I check all my lines, all my hoses, and all of the components, make sure nothing is broken, nothing is cracked, there is no air or oil leaks anywhere on the vehicle. Next thing I'm going to check is my coolant reservoir. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. It is not leaking. The hose is on tight. The hose is not broken, not cracked, not leaking. The cap is on tight. Also, the coolant reservoir, the fluid is at proper level. Next thing I'm going to check is my oil dipstick. My oil dipstick is not broken, not cracked, on secure. The way I would check my oil level is I'd pull out the dipstick, wipe it off, put it back in, pull it back out, make sure it's reading at proper level. You do not have to do this during the test, but you do have to explain how you do this. My power steering fluid reservoir, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. There are no leaks coming out of it. The hoses are on tight. They're not broken, not cracked, not leaking. The cap is on tight, and it's at proper level. Next, we're going to go to the power steering gearbox. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. No leaks. The power steering gearbox hoses are not broken, not cracked. They are on secure. They are not leaking. My 3-piece steering linkage, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. All my bolts, my castle keys, and my nuts, they are not broken, not cracked, on secure. Now in my suspension, I'm going to look for my front spring mount. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. I will go to my rear spring mount. That is not broken, not cracked, on secure. My spring leaf, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, not scissoring. My 2 U-bolts, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. My shock absorber, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure, it's not leaking. Now we're going to go into our braking area. My brake hose and line, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, not leaking, not frayed. Inside of my wheel, there is no contaminants by the brake items. Now we're going to go to our tire and wheel, the top of my steer tire. There is no cuts, no breaks, no cracks, no leaks. My tread depth is 4 32 of an inch. In depth, I would check that with a tread depth gauge. After we do the top of the tire, we're going to move to the front of the tire and the wheel area. On the front of the wheel, the first thing I would inspect is my tire wall. It's not broken, not cracked. There is no cuts, no leaks. My rim, it's not broken, not cracked. There is no illegal welds on it. My lug nuts, they're not broken, not cracked. They are all on tight. My valve stem, it's not broken, not cracked, not leaking any air. It does have a cover on it. I would have to inspect to make sure I have enough tire pressure with a tire gauge through my valve stem. Once I'm done with my wheel, I will inspect the rest of my truck. Now we must inspect the rest of the vehicle from the driver door to the rear of the vehicle. The first thing I'm going to check is my mirrors. They're not broken, not cracked, on secure. The bracket is on tight. My fuel tank, it's not broken, not cracked, on secure. There are no leaks coming from my fuel lines or hoses, and there are no leaks under the fuel tank. My fuel cap is on tight. It has a rubber seal and safety chain. If your vehicle had a DEF tank, this vehicle does not, you would check the DEF tank the same way as you check your fuel tank. The next item on the list is going to be my frame. The frame is not broken, not cracked, on secure. It has no illegal welds. On the rear of my vehicle, on the box, I'm going to check for all my clearance lights, make sure they're not broken, not cracked, on secure. They operate as running lights. They're proper color, amber in the front, red in the back. Also, I'm going to check for any reflectors, which we have one in the front, one in the back. The front is amber, the back is red. They're clean and visible, not broken, not cracked, on secure. Once we're done with the lights and reflectors, we're going to go to the back of the truck to check the rear of the vehicle. On the rear of the vehicle, I usually start from top to bottom. My clearance lights, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, red in color. My tail lights, they're not broken, not cracked, on secure, and I do have a reflector. My rear lights on both sides, they operate as running lights, brake lights, four-way emergency flashers, and turn signals. My DOT reflective tape is visible and clean. It is 100% on the rear of my vehicle. Once I'm done with this, I will walk down the passenger side of the vehicle to see if there is any unique items on this truck. The only thing that is unique on the passenger side of the vehicle on this truck is my battery box. It's not broken, not cracked, on secure. I would open up the box, check all my batteries, all my lines, make sure nothing is broken, not cracked, not leaking. All the batteries are secure. In a real test, you would not actually physically check the batteries, but you would explain to the examiner how you would do so. That will be it for the Class B CDL pre-trip.